Hey again, get another full inventory and get some IDing going here. I was just waiting on the incredibly long extended maintenance today. So, being overseas, that was basically all night and all morning for me. Okay, here we go. Um, Not great. The single resist and an armor, they're nice bonus stats, but they mean nothing if you're not going to have the mandatory primary stats on gloves, which would be some vitality or some life percent, some crit chance, and potentially resist all. If you've got those initial bases covered, then you can start branching out and valuing single resists or armor. But as it stands, they're only detracting. Two competing primary stats, some thorns, and the worst single resist there is. Shoulders, however, though it is an unsexy piece, you've got chest, belt, pants, shoulders that pretty much don't have an option of, a sexy quote-unquote stat of more offensive stats. You're pretty much limited to just primary stats, vitality, resist all, and then some moderate bonus affixes. Incredibly low damage, but it's got 12 level requirement reduction. Even with the level requirement reduction, though, that's a really low damage numbers. I mean, for a couple 100,000, you can get a weapon in the 500s or 600s, with as high as 15, 16, 17 required level reduction. So this is nothing to speak of, even for an alt. The only thing that might save this would be a really powerful proc or a socket for some crit damage. Nothing here. If there was pickup radius, it'd be a really nice gold roll, but you've got probably the second worst single resist, and then just an unspeakably low roll on dexterity and vitality. And there's no crit chance on it, which you really want on your bracers. This is slightly better, but is lacking any health component, any life component, so but it's got just what you want. Otherwise, it's got a decent resist all, it's got a single resist, the best single resist, it's got your choice of a low primary roll, and then it's got a nice little bonus of life regeneration. So this is worth checking out, but there's really not going to be much of a market for this one, is my guess. Too low, but nice lifesteal number, and a decent crowd control proc. Very nice strength, but it's kind of worthless on a crossbow, and really low numbers. Yeah, no primary stats at all, so no one's going to be able to... While it appeals to everyone, at the same time it appeals to no one because of a lack of primary stats. Even the just the thorns is moderate, like maybe a thorns barb, but they're gonna want some strength. If this had strength, it'd be a pretty sweet thorns barb belt, I think, because it's pretty high end on the thorns damage, and then they're going for tanky stuff for everything else. You got some resist all, some life, some armor. So it's just missing one affix to be sellable. Here you've only got two valuable affixes in the strength and the vitality, and that any more that just doesn't cut it for belts. You need something better. So unfortunately, life on kill is not life on hit, if anyone hasn't realized that yet. Although there are a couple interesting builds that do rely on life on kill, and then they farm quests and acts that are much more plentiful in terms of mob density, and so instead of just wiping out the white mobs, they'll leave all the white quality mobs up while they approach and take down elite packs. Basically, they just you evaluate all the easy mobs as potential health globes. You know, they're all guaranteed gains in life because you can easily AoE them all down with whatever build you might be using at the time, and that's going to pop your life back up. So in essence, they're using life on kill as life on hit, and you get much higher numbers of life on kill. So basically, you try and single target down elites, and when you need a little life, you pop an AoE ability, you wipe out the white mobs, and you're top back off. But it's a you know, you got crit, you got attack speed, and then you've got some defensive abilities. But there's no primary stat, there's no vitality, no crit damage. So this one, you'd have to have a very discerning customer to be able to even find this. Most people are going to filter past it, looking for a primary stat or vitality or all resist or something. These are almost there. You've got a nice primary, you've got a little vitality, you've got some armor. Socket, you know, it's decent. You can only max out at 2 sockets on pants, so it's not like a chest where you're missing 2 sockets here. But it doesn't have any sort of all resist, so you've only got 2 of the 3 of that base trifecta. If you had that, then great. You know, you can look at the armor and the socket as bonus affixes, but low numbers for a two-hander. Again, low. It does have a socket. Competing primaries, pretty much a lack of vitality in any sort of realistic expectation. And thorns, which I don't think is too attractive to demon hunters. Some decent natural crit and a lifesteal, but the numbers are just way too low to validate that. Again, too low, but you've got really nice natural crit and life on hit and strength. So really nice affixes, but horrible numbers. Triple primaries and some magic find, so that's going nowhere. I don't think I even need to say anything. Same here, an empty socket isn't going to be enough to save this one. Again. A whole lot of wasted affixes here. A really low life regen, a wasted poison affix, and a really tiny health globes. This one has a small chance. You've got natural crit plus a socket, so you know I could socket this with a 70 and not lose too much money on a gym, and you know then you're over the 110 mark for crit damage. A lot of people, I personally I'll search for 101 when I search for crit damage. That way I don't have to use 2 affixes in the auction house looking for you know, a high crit damage number plus a socket. Searching for 101 is you're gonna cut out all the people that have put a really expensive crit gem in there. So this one has a shot. It's not going to be much. Sub 700 weapons with natural crit plus a socket really are getting more plentiful, unfortunately, and they're basically just a stepping stone weapon for people that are fresh to 60. You can get them very, very easily for sub 500,000. This is a little better. You've got your choice of a primary, a low vitality, a great single resist, and a nice resist all, and then a decent little bonus life regen. It's not great, but it certainly can be viewed as bonus, since you do have a primary vitality and a really nice resist all. So you've got, no matter how you look at this one, whether it's strength or intelligence, you're appealing to three different classes here, three different different classes: witch doctor, wizard, and barbarian. And then you've got basically a really nice defensive piece. The only thing making it subpar is a low vitality roll. You can forgive a decently low primary if this had a really high vitality roll, since all the rest of the stats are defensive. So it would line up quite well for those people, but it'll still sell. A bunch of interesting things, but the numbers just deplete any opportunity that had. So this is basically has double rolls on life, dexterity, single resist, and magic find. Obviously on a helm, a socket will be much better than that natural magic find, since you can, at a decent economic rate, go up to like 23% for a gem. But it's low dexterity, low vitality. You are potentially doubling that number of vitality with that 7% number, depending upon the person's total health. But maybe, just maybe, you could get 75,000 for this. I'll look it up. Life on hit and life steal with low numbers. If this had a socket, this could actually have a very nice price tag on it. But I'm kind of interested to see the combination of lifesteal strategies on a low weapon like this. I wonder what it's currently going for. I don't think I've ever looked up that kind of combination before. You might actually sell that to somebody that is merely theory crafting and needs a weapon to test, with moderate numbers and that combination. So basically negligible primary stats here, but you've got two open sockets, a decent vitality roll, and then an interesting reduced damage affix that a lot of people, I view it as quite beneficial. A lot of people don't know how to calculate it. Things like increased damage versus elites, basically whatever the percent number is. If you have 4% increased damage against elites, you look at your total primary stat, and that 4% is essentially going to be 4% of your primary stat. My intellect is at 1800, so that'd be 40, that'd be 72 intellect if it was an increased damage against elites. Damage reduction, I would assume that you're taking like an equation, a combination of your resist all reduction and your armor reduction numbers, and then you're getting a percentile of that. I don't know the equation well enough for the reduced damage numbers, but the increased damage against elites is a sexy number that it's worth way more than people think. Like, for example, the example I gave on intellect, 70%, or 70 numbers, 70 on a primary stat is quite big. More often than not, and those numbers can go up to, I believe, 7 or 8% that this affix can get, the increased damage. So if you get a perfectly rolled one at 7 or 8 up there, you're looking at over 100 on your primary stat, which is a much easier way for you to evaluate a purchase. That being said, I think even with putting in some cheap gems into this chest to sell it, you've got two 34 intellect or strength gems. I would probably go for the, I don't know, I was gonna say go for the intellect because maybe they fear the range damage a bit more, but I guess so would barbarians because they have to run to those mortar mobs or those archers, just the same as wizards have to dodge it. So I guess it equally feared by both. But even with that extra 64 stats on the strength or the intellect, you've barely broken 100 on the intellect, and you haven't broken 100 on the strength. But because you're just over the 100 intellect mark, maybe you're gonna reach an audience that is filtering and entering, exactly 100 on their auction house filter